This is episode 219 of the Focused Mindset podcast. This is an audio podcast, and I recorded it on my way to the airport. But sometimes, when you just have a lot on your mind and you just want to get it all out, I just wanted to get it all out talking to you. So I hope you love this podcast really as much as I do. and yeah, let me know what you think. But let's not wait any longer. Let's get started. This is the podcast where we build strong connections and have amazing conversations using the solution-focused approach. I'm Cher Kretz. I'm a school counselor and a speaker and life coach. For far too long, I lived my life thinking I needed to have all the answers. But now I realize that giving out hope is far more important than giving out advice. And when we come together here, we'll learn to take our thoughts captive and focus on what's most important so we can make an impact on this world and be the person we were always meant to be. To learn more, head over to cherkretz.com. That's CHERKRETZ.com. Or hop over to Amazon to look up 30 Days to Higher Hopes. Hello, I am so glad to be with you here today on this podcast. I'm coming to you from the beautiful state of Florida on my way to the airport to head back to California. And this is the first time I've ever tried recording a podcast in the car with my cool mic that I've bought. And I hope it's clear enough for me to use because I really want to talk on this drive about boldness. I feel led in my heart to kind of get my thoughts out. Being that I'm an auditory learner, one of the best ways that I process my thoughts is through talking it out. And so I'm going to talk it out with you, if that's all right. If you haven't noticed, my last quite a few podcasts, I haven't really addressed the topic of boldness a lot. Although it's something that I teach, it's also something that I've been on a journey to really understand. And what I mean by that is boldness sometimes can get out of hand. If we just say in the name of boldness, we're going to say whatever we want to say, then we end up doing all the talking. And we end up choosing not to listen or accidentally not listening. I can think of many times in my life years ago where I would leave a gathering, whatever, whether it be a party or whatever, and I felt like, wow, everything went really well, and everyone seemed to listen to what I was saying. I laugh because things are so different for me now, where my what I judge how something went well or not is how much I learned about other people. And I'll tell you what, this isn't something that happened overnight. And it's also, I don't think, necessarily a wrong thing that I was in the space that I was in. It had a lot to do with my upbringing because my family, they really taught us that communication was important, the communication form of talking. And maybe they failed to really lean into the listening part. There's a reason for that. They wanted to make sure that we were able to communicate effectively, that we were able to talk when we needed to talk and express ourselves in a manner that is not only clear, but also decisive. I mean, can you consider that my father has a law degree and he was the head of the journalism department at Pepperdine University. Before that, he was editor of newspapers. And think about that career path. What got him there? Many times it was his communication skills. He's also an author. He's written amazing books. Again, the power of words. And he instilled that in some direct ways and indirect ways throughout my childhood. And then you have my mother who, by all means, loves to pour her heart out to people in prayer, in affirmations, in standing beside people and cheering them on. She has the ability to tell you a story. Sometimes I remember many times she would tell us stories of things that happened to us when we were kids, and we would love listening to her stories. Well, that instilled in us that it was important. The talking part of communication was important. It really wasn't until I was an adult and began to be in relationships where I realized the importance of listening. And then when decided to be a school counselor and went into my master's program, oh yeah, they teach you about listening. They teach you about listening a lot. But I realized as I became a solution focused specialist that I hadn't really learned the skill of using solution focused strategies in everyday conversations. I realized that there were times when I needed to use better listening skills in everyday conversations, and I just chose not to. And I felt really compelled to begin to listen in a whole new way. And as I did this and my priorities changed in social situations, it could seem as though I was shrinking back. And I think in some ways I was guilty of sometimes failing to speak when I needed to. But sometimes we go through times where we need to be strict with ourselves to learn. And I needed to learn a lesson. I needed to learn that it was okay for me to be quiet. I'm so thankful that I learned that. And me understanding the power of listening to others and really asking questions that might instill hope in them. That realization allowed me to be motivated to speak on the TEDx stage. And to circle back to the reason why I want to talk about boldness, there are times when my voice needs to be heard. It doesn't need to be the first voice that's heard, but I need to be able to be bold and say things that need to be said. The question is when. The question is, how do you know for sure if you've done it the right way? Well, I was sitting in a special dinner recently. It's called the Lumineers dinner. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrongly, but the host, Manal, who does the TEDx events in Ocala, she does something really special the night before the event. She opens up her beautiful home to all the people that were speaking, all the coaches of the speakers, and the volunteers that put in hard hours. And we have a great dinner. I talked a little bit about this in another episode, but during that time, I was sitting around a table with these amazing speakers that were so eager to get on stage. And somebody posed a question. They said, "What do you guys hope to get out of your talks?" And as I listened, I knew that I could tell by listening that a lot of them were really wondering, what is it that I'm going to get? I don't know. I've been working so hard on my talk. I don't even really know how to answer that question. They were answering, but I felt in my heart that tug. And it wasn't a tug of, oh, I know what to say. It was a different type of tug that I think all of us can learn to listen to within us during a conversation. There's times when we know that there's something of value that needs to be shared, that there's no one in that place that can share it just like you. And when you feel that tug, you know it's time to share. And I did end up sharing. And man, am I so glad that I did. Because there was a dialogue within my head of saying, should I just be the person that listens? I'm comfortable being that person now in a social situation. I can't always say that that was true. Should I just take in what they're saying? But as I spoke up and I began to share with the people about my last year since I've been a speaker, I realized as I'm looking in the eyes of the people at the table that they were leaning in, they were making eye contact, some feeling a little glassy eyed. And then the same people that were answering that question began to have conversation about what this might mean in their life. It leveled up the conversation because I was willing to be bold enough to share. How I shared was also something that I deliberately made sure that I wanted to uplift them. It wasn't really about my story at the end. It was really because I want to encourage them. And I remember one gentleman said, wow, I'm feeling so motivated right now about after what you said. And I'm thinking that this opportunity that of standing on the TEDx stage is even more powerful than I had first thought. And someone else has said, well, I feel right now that even if this is as far as if nothing ever happened from my talk, that I would be so happy that I accomplished this. And the conversation then began to flow, and it was time for me then to go back into that important listening role. The whole table felt a bond from that moment on that was unmistakable and continued on throughout the evening and into the next day when we saw each other. There was a new level of closeness. The awkward conversation had turned into something so rich and beautiful. And those of you that have that listen to this podcast and you have the ability to bring people together with things that you say, I want to let you know that that's the right time to be bold. Don't shrink back from sharing the things that are in your heart that you know need to be said. Yes, be careful about how long you talk. And if you need to then shut it down, um, have a level of, I don't know, just kind of like keep yourself in check kind of thing. But nonetheless, it's such a shame when we miss moments. We miss moments with people that can not only be just a moment, but be a memory that we'll share forever and that we can create bonds and love between people in a sense. There was love at that table. I don't know if any of us will talk again. I hope so. I exchanged numbers, but we all live in different parts of the world coming together for one common reason. We need to let our voice be heard for the purpose of elevating humanity and elevating conversations and bringing people together. That's the reason. It's not because we have to share what we know. We have to be the one that knows everything, or, oh, I know something about that. I could think of another time where my family was on a little mini vacation out by the beach, and we went to dinner at the Mexican restaurant that was right by our hotel. And we got a table outside. We thought we would really be able to relax and listen to the ocean, but we almost couldn't even hear ourselves talk over a group of people at the table next to us. And to be honest, it wasn't the group of people. It was one individual who kept dominating the conversation. And every time somebody said something, she would speak up and have a story or a joke or something to bring up. And her voice dominated that conversation so much that there was no room for anybody else to thrive, no room for anyone else to share. But I know that in some ways that was me at one point in my life. I know there was a time in my life where I mistaked those people being curious about what I did for a living or curious about the things that I was going through in my life. And I mistake that for us having a connection because I would begin communicating my stories and feeling like, wow, this is really cool that I can share this, but not taking the time to deliberately share something that might be meaningful to them. How many opportunities did I miss of creating bonds? So when I was listening to those people at that table, I was just like, wow, that person hasn't quite learned that yet. I don't know if they ever will. Hopefully they will in their lifetime. I can say though that the feeling is very different when you speak up in boldness in a conversation right where you should for the right reasons. And I believe that boldness is so very important in our life, you guys. I mean, you don't want to shrink who you are. You don't want to shrink who you were always meant to be. There's lots of different ways to live our life, and humility is something that is a virtue that we should always have, no matter if we're bold or not. Please don't dim your light because you're trying to be humble, or you're trying to wait for the right time, or you just even feel nervous. recognize that nerves will happen, but then choose to let your light shine. Choose to share your story and your message and your vision to the people that need to hear it when the time and place is right. Sometimes we're bad at thinking about when the time and place is right. We think it's right, but it really isn't. Unfortunately, that happens a lot in our parenting because we just feel the need to tell our kids about something and, well, they're glossed over. They're not listening. They're completely ignoring us. Happened yesterday. My husband was kind enough to call me after my daughter had to get together with her volleyball team for the first time. I wasn't able to be there, right, because of this event here in Florida. After she talked about all of the stuff that she did with her volleyball team, I felt a huge surge of energy to share with her the things I was thinking about that might help her prepare for the upcoming season. And I couldn't see her because we were on speakerphone. And my husband says, I just think I should let you know that she's not listening to you right now. She's not paying attention at all. I'm like, well, geez, I was on a roll. This was some important stuff. But he was doing me a favor, right? Because I was wasting my breath. There are times, unfortunately, we need to choose the times most carefully with our kids because they need to be heard. And sometimes they're just not in the right space to hear. And I'm hoping I can continue learning that. I'd like to believe that if I was there in front of her, that I would have read that for myself and been quiet, but I can't 100% know that because I get really excited about the things that my daughter's involved with. And to be honest, she's like, okay, enough. But man, I don't care. You know, they grow up way too fast. And one day she's going to be doing her own thing and I won't even get a chance to share. So if I annoy her every now and then, I love being involved with what she's doing as much as she'll let me. So, anyway, so it is many, many examples of times when we read it wrong and we think, oh, time for me to share. Go. And so don't beat yourself up if that does happen. I'm just saying that in the process of learning the skills that I continuously teach about using the GPS conversation navigation in your favor, where you first gather information from the other person with curiosity and no judgment, and then you help them plan through asking them questions and finding out what will ring true for their life so they can make a plan for themselves and then cheering them on to start. And in all three of those steps, it doesn't leave us a lot of room for our opinion, and that was on purpose because I think we need to train ourselves. But then be aware of when your light needs to shine and then go for it. Because it's beautiful when it happens in the right way, because you are in tune. You guys are on the same page, the same wavelength, right? And then you share and you see them leaning in. Sometimes it happens because you were asked to share, and that's wonderful because you're not projecting your thoughts upon them. They actually have asked for your opinion. But when it happens, know that your voice is amazing. There's only one of you and the way that you think through things and the way that you look at things. You never know what little nugget you're going to say that someone will take with them forever. I just got through completing TEDx coaching with Tiffany Edith. And this is only the second person that I've been able to coach for their TEDx event. And although I love coaching in the personal growth and development, this is a different type of coaching. I have to tell you about Tiffany Edith. This woman was focused on giving the best talk that she could give from minute one we got together. And her and I were so focused on that job that needed to be done and to be using our time wisely. Her in another state and us meeting online, that it wasn't until this weekend in Florida that we were able to talk about personal things. I was able to meet her daughter and find out why she moved recently from her home in Florida all the way out to Utah. And after she shared with me a little bit about where she was at, she asked me a few questions. And it was another one of those moments where I was like, share a little more, give a little into this conversation, because little did I know, but she needed to hear it. Her and I had been through a very similar experience in our relationships, and in our personal relationships. Me, about, I don't know, maybe 8-10 years ago, I had gone through something very similar to what she had been through in the last couple of years. Neither one of us knew this through this entire time that I was coaching her. But in that moment, when I was willing to let down my guard of coach and just say, vulnerability is number one right here, and share what I've been through, she came back and she told me that time that we spoke, even if she had done nothing else and not even stood on the stage. Wow, this is making me emotional thinking about this. She said that conversation that we had was worth everything, that it was worth it. And the thing that's going to stand out to her is that time when she took me to go eat barbecue. And that blows me away, right? Because it's unplanned. Completely, I'd just been pouring into helping her this whole time. And whatever that led to at the time when I chose to share, it was something that makes a difference to her, which absolutely humbles me. It absolutely floors me when I think about it, because it's just a moment in time, but it's very important to her. So grateful for our friendship that we've developed through coaching. And so think about the moments in your life where you need to practice boldness, not in a way to exert your opinion, but to make an impact. You got this. You can do it. And you can do it for the right reasons. Listen to that inner voice within you that says, speak up, rise up, volunteer, apply, and do it. Because the world needs your voice. And I can't wait to hear it. So it's time for me to wrap this up. Don't forget to follow this show if you haven't got a chance to. I love speaking with you each and every week. And no matter what you're doing, remember today to choose hope. Help other people feel hopeful for your words. And live solution focused. Thank you so much for joining me. But wait, before you go, don't forget to check the show notes. That's where you'll find all the places you can follow me on social media, and just, it's the way we keep in touch. I have a newsletter called Hope Notes. And if you hop on SherKretz.com, you'll see in the menu bar, basically, it'll tell you how to get in that. And I'm going to have some really great little tidbits that I want to share. Whenever it comes up, that's where that happens. And honestly, the people that get my Hope Notes also get coupons and different stuff from my products as they come up. So I'd love to have you there, especially if you're thriving to be more solution focused in your life. And if you're interested in joining a challenge that's going to help you with your communication, join the free 3-day conversation challenge. It's free right now. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it that way, but I want to see you there. So it's time for us to get going. Until next time, live solution focused.